Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Sound of Accra podcast. You're now tuned in to the show where we chat with colorful creatives and entrepreneurs from a Ghanaian background, all with a special interest to the city, bringing you one step closer to Accra. I have my brother Michael Donkor, who has joined the show today. He's a special guest. So, for those of you who don't know about Michael, before I let him even say hello, he is a financial advisor and a life coach. He's from London. He's married, got two kids, raised in East London, good old East London, and he's worked in finance over the past decade. And of course, you're Ghanaian. Is that correct?
Yep, yep.
Welcome.
I'm a London boy, but originally from parents are from Ghana. I'm from
Nice,
Ghana, so yeah.
nice. That's what's up, man. And how you feeling today, man?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. It's been a good day. Just kind of balancing work with homeschooling that we're having to deal with at the moment with this whole lockdown. So
Mm,
yeah, just trying to keep everything in order really, and
mm.
and not go crazy with all the kids running around and all that kind of stuff. So
Uh,
you got to do what you got to do.
You
You
gotta do
know.
what you gotta do, man. I totally
Yeah.
agree with you. I mean, I don't have kids. I mean, it's something that I'm aspiring to have, but I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it can't be easy managing kids in this pandemic whilst trying to do what you were trying to do, whilst being married, and your house gets
It's a lot, but
divided. Your house, you like,
yeah, yeah. Everyone's got their room,
yeah.
Everyone's got their selected room. So as long as you stay in your room, we're good.
You're good. That's so you got your own space, right? So even in the midst of having the missus and the kids, you have your own
Mm.
personal space that you can go off. Your back cave,
To
right?
some
Your
to
back
some
cave.
yeah, you still got to have your back cave a little bit at some point, but it's just trying to get the right balance. So the kids got their room. Maybe one of us is in the bedroom and the living room, and we'll alternate, and then just kind of just take it from there. So just trying to get the balance
That's
with everything, and make sure the kids are on top of their calls and stuff like that. So yeah, all good, man. All
perfect.
good.
Perfect. Yeah. And yeah, man, you're looking fresh even in the midst of a pandemic. Obviously, I had a look at your
All right, man.
website.
I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm
Humble guy, humble guy.
trying.
I like it, humble guy. So yeah, I had a look at your website as well. I like you. I like how you
Yeah.
got the personal brand thing going on. We'll probably
Thank you.
get to that maybe towards the end of the show if there's time. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do really like how you're presenting yourself in your personal brand. From the photos, you look like you're someone out from The Apprentice. You know how these apprentice kind of you look like one of these models, yet intellectual kind of guy that
Yeah.
kind of gone for The Apprentice kind of thing. I know
Yeah.
you've watched The Apprentice before. Do you remember watching The Apprentice and seeing some of the clips where they're talking about the different candidates that put themselves forward?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're doing all this like walking around London and
They're walking
pulling
in
these
the
angles and
cave.
stuff.
They
Yeah,
got the suitcase,
yeah,
and they're telling everyone how great they are and how they're better than everybody else. And they're so arrogant and everything. It's
that's
like
right, man.
crazy.
It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
get it, man.
Yeah, yeah, man. So I mean, it kind of gave me that kind of vibe in a good way as
Mhm.
well. So I mean, you can only applaud yourself for doing a great job, man. So well done, man.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Just
Yeah.
really trying to get myself out there and get everyone to see me for, me, effectively. So, yeah.
That's what's up, man. And speaking of your website, don't worry, guys. We will have everything in the show notes from today's show, all the links and the websites and the references. You can head over to thesoundofaccra.com and we'll have all of the show notes for today's show. It will be soundofaccra.com/ Michael Donkor. Don't worry, we'll get into that a bit later on. Okay?
Mhm.
So, yeah, Michael, obviously, I've introduced you earlier on. Just maybe tell us two or three things about yourself.
Yeah, so, besides being born in London, you mentioned the kids, so,
Mm.
family guy,
Mhm.
big, I'd say music fan, but I'm a bit old school, so, old school hip hop and rap, big
Mm.
Nas fan.
Mm.
King's Disease was a good album, so shout out Nas if he's watching this. um,
One in a
other
million.
than that,
One in a million.
yeah, other than that, myself, I just kind of really just focusing on, especially with this time, just trying to balance life with family and work, and
Mm.
trying to stay positive with everything going on at the moment. And I think that helps, especially with stuff like the life coaching that I'm doing as well, and kind of using that energy to try and keep other people motivated and keep them going in this kind of crisis. Because
Mhm.
yeah, it's unfortunate what's happening. You don't know what's coming around the corner, but you got to find a way to stay positive. So that's me trying to always just kind of look on the bright side.
Very, 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 very true.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Those are very true words because at the end of the day, um, especially when you're talking to your clients, I mean, obviously you're an important person to your clients. You're also an important person to your family, to your kids. So to keep up that positivity is very important
yeah,
because it's only gonna reflect upon all of those areas and those avenues in your life. So very, very true point there.
yeah,
Yeah, man. So I just want to get straight into it. We're probably going to get into the life coaching bit maybe towards the end of the show. I just really want to decipher, you know, the finance backgrounds that you have. All right.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So, first of all, let's bust this myth straight away, right?
Hmm.
Talk us through financial planning. I mean, because with financial planning, that
Yeah,
could be interpreted in so many different ways. I mean, people could think accounting, they could think bookkeeping, they could
yeah.
think wealth management, financial advisor. I mean, there's so many different avenues that this could be interpreted as.
Yeah.
But in your words, what's financial planning?
So I guess, like you said, financial advisor, financial planning, they all kind of fit in the same umbrella effectively. Financial planning is all about building a long-term plan
Yeah.
for your life goals.
Uh huh.
Okay. And the financial advisor, the individuals that you're working with, should effectively be trying to do that in the most tax efficient way possible.
Mm,
So aiming to structure yourself so that you're not only making money
yeah.
in one aspect, but also saving from another aspect. So almost getting the right balance from both sides, if you can do that. But then it's also about anything else that money touches.
Yeah.
So a financial advisor should be talking to you about all aspects of finance, whether they can help you directly with it or not,
Yeah.
and then using that to build your financial plan for the long term.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't really tend to think further than 5 years, so to speak, in terms of what they're
Mm,
expecting going forward. Your financial advisor is usually someone that's trying to think, maybe the next 10, 15, 20 years or
wow.
so, to
Mm,
really think about what your future could look like.
yeah. And we will get to that because I think the current conditions of the economy could make that quite tricky. But we will get to
Yeah,
that, navigating financial planning in a COVID world.
yeah,
What I do want to touch upon is the article that you shared with me on Zenny's inspiration. I think I do
yeah,
recognize that website. I think we
hmm
do have a mutual friend, which we'll probably have a conversation about after the
yeah,
show.
yeah.
Okay, but I know the person that owns that website, so you must know her.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, I went to university with her.
did
Yeah,
you? Okay, there you go. Shout out to
yeah,
Glennis if you're listeing.
yeah.
Small world, man. Yeah.
Shout out to Glennis.
Shout out to
Yeah,
Glennis.
definitely.
Yeah, man. You can even share this podcast with her. Tell her I said. All right. So, there's an important thing that you said on the article that
Hmm.
really caught my eye. Right. So right at the beginning. By the way, very good article. This is a very well written article, guys. We will make sure it's linked in the show notes so you can take a look at it. Now back to the article, right? You wrote this very well. You mentioned a very very key point, right? You said you're talking about the conversation you had with your friends, and then that kind of opened your whole world, kind of thing. The average person, money hits their bank account 12 times a year, but how many times does
Hmm.
it leave your bank account?
Yeah.
And then it's apparently so that statement obviously
Mhm.
rocked your world, right? Now, did that inspire you? What I want to know is, Michael, right? Did that
Mhm.
inspire you to get into financial planning? Because that sounded to me that that may have done it for you, or was it more than that?
So that statement
Yeah.
was actually Glennis
Was it?
in that part.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Glennis in that part.
Bravo to
That
Glennis.
she speaks about. Okay, and
Wow.
uh, it was quite interesting because it just kind of reminded me of what my experience was with finance,
Yeah.
especially when I was earlier on working in finance. I was working in investments,
Hmm.
stockbroking side
Yeah.
of things,
Mhm.
and I kind of dealt with that. But
Okay.
in terms of what kind of inspired me to get into financial advice, it
Yeah.
was way back when I was working in the bank, in retail banking. I was working at a branch
Yeah.
um, for High Street Bank, customer service,
Mm.
personal banking, dealing with loans, credit cards, bank accounts, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I happened to work with a financial advisor at the time that was making loads of moves, making loads of money. I was bringing in all the leads, so I was like kind of directing the clients to him,
Yeah.
and he would provide them the service, and then he'll come to me at the end of the month and be like, well done, man. You've made like 350 points, uh, and I've made 10 grand. So like,
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah.
So I was like, what's going on here? Like, I need to get to where he is.
I know, right? Like,
So
this doesn't add up.
yeah,
Like,
it did make sense.
He's eating. He's eating from the king's table. I'm eating from the.
Yeah,
Man, what's going on, bro?
it was crazy, and it was only at that point when I realized that I wanted to get into that space.
Mm.
Um, he was. I was thankful enough that he was happy to kind of get me into his meetings so I can see what he was doing, understand his role.
Uh-huh.
Um, then from that, I started looking into the qualifications myself and tried to move up with the bank, and they wanted to kind of steer me towards mortgages first,
Okay.
which I
Yeah.
didn't think was a good idea.
It's quite typical, isn't it?
Um,
Mortgage, like people working in banks going into like mortgage advisor and getting their is that CMAP the qualification?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think
yeah,
I think it's still relevant, the CMAP. At the time, it was the CMAP. I was looking at the CFAR at
yeah.
the time, the
Hmm.
Certificate for Financial Advisors.
Yeah.
I was starting to study that, and I tried to get in. I asked the manager. They were like, "No, you got to go through mortgages first. Stay there for a couple of years, then we'll go and move you over to financial planning, financial advice." And I just kind of looked at it and thought, no, I can actually just do my exams, be a qualified advisor,
Yeah.
and just go to like one of the other banks, and just move over there. So off the back of that, I decided to leave. I left the bank, started
That's it.
studying my exams, and kind of randomly, as I was doing that,
Hmm.
I ended up moving across into investing
Nice.
and did my certificate in investments,
Uh-huh.
did that qualification, and then moved into stockbroking.
Mad. So you kind of moved
Yeah,
quite quickly. You just made a quick transition from one area of finance to another.
yeah.
And
I don't remember exactly what happened, but it
uh-huh.
just kind of, it was all the excitement of trading and
Yeah.
being in the mix of things kind of moved me over there, and still looking at the idea of working with people and working with their finances as well.
Okay.
So that's kind of what happened there.
Yeah. Let's take a quick diversion, Michael, because obviously you brought up trading and stockbroking. Shout out to Jason, who was in season one. He's one of my close friends in university who came on the podcast, and he's a very successful trader, a day trader, and obviously investor, etc. And we talked about trading, etc. What's your take on trading? I know obviously there's bad types of trading. Well, not I want to say bad, but probably not advisable, like binary trading, and then there's day trading, and there's buying shares or stocks, whatever, assets, trading on
Yeah,
assets. What's your take on trading? And for you as a financial planner, are you
yeah,
legally able to trade at the same time? Because usually there's like a clash. Usually when you're working in a certain financial realm, for
yeah,
example, I know people that work in Barclays that they can't trade. You understand? Is
yeah.
there a clash with working as a financial planner with you?
There is because it's usually based on the kind of licenses put in place with the companies that you're working with.
Uh huh.
So when I was a broker,
Uh huh.
um, the problem that I came across was that if I wanted to make any trades, so if I
Yeah.
thought, let me set up my own account and do some trades,
Yeah.
I had to get all of them signed off by compliance.
Yeah. Okay.
So it wasn't a straightforward of, let me open an account, put some money in, hey, the FTSE looks good, Bitcoin looks good.
Okay.
It was literally, you had to go to your compliance officer,
Uh-huh.
fill out a form, and say, look, I want to do this trade for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Give it to them, and then they'll come back to you within a couple of days. in
Okay.
most cases, unless she was able to kind of have that conversation, like, can you sort this out? We need to do this now. And that just caused a problem. It caused a problem because, you know, in the kind of short trading game, you know, scalping and trying to go in and out of trades,
Yeah,
you know, time is everything.
it
You
is.
know, execution is everything. And,
Mm.
you know, I think now with the way technology algorithms have come about,
Mhm.
there's more opportunity for you to kind of put, you know, certain price limits in place so that you can execute trades when you're not there and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, it just made it a bit more difficult to kind of track those things. And you got into a rhythm where, you know, you was actively managing your clients' money,
Mhm.
so you wasn't heavily thinking about your finances because
Okay.
you could easily get muddled up in the two. You
Yeah.
have trades
Yeah.
by yourself,
It's true.
and you're trying to think about your clients' money, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I need to check if that trade's doing well. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it can kind of mess up the game a little bit. So that was the problem there. And then in as a financial advisor,
Uh-huh.
a lot of the role is about long-term planning,
Uh-huh.
and some of the kind of trades that we're talking about are very short-term.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a clash. You don't usually
Mm.
advise the client on an individual stock.
Yeah.
You're advising the client on a overall plan,
Overall plan. Yeah.
and that plan might include some element of trading or some
Okay.
element of.
Okay, right.
Does that make
So it's
sense?
the overall strategy. So this is so now we've brought the conversation a little bit back into financial planning. So it's like an overall strategy of different tools, different vehicles you can leverage in order to get to that financial wealth goal or whatever it is that you're trying
Yeah,
to get to. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The financial. If I was to use the analogy in trading, you know,
Yeah.
the financial planner would be looking at what price to get in at and what price to get out
Yeah.
and what kind of return to anticipating,
Mhm.
and the trader would be looking at what stock to buy.
Okay. Mhm.
To some extent, you can assume it's that, or what commodity is, if they're looking at gold or if they're looking at any
Yeah.
FX.
Yeah.
So the financial planner is thinking about it from a longer term perspective, but also, you know, to kind of add to that,
Mhm. Go
I
for it.
think in terms of trading, it needs to kind of either work well with your character, or you need to get used to setting up
Mm.
a trading style of your own as well. Because
Mm.
at being in my early 20s and still trying to get a good hold on it,
Yeah.
I was very impulsive. So I'd put trades on and maybe get nervous and then put the trade off, or take the money and run, and then
Yeah.
try and chase some more money. Then before you know it, I've lost it.
Yeah.
So it was about getting that discipline in place, and you know, I just never did it long enough because I
Mm.
was broken and just focusing on my clients' money.
Yeah. So obviously trading. Obviously, we're not gonna make this all about trading, but I mean trading essentially. I know there's an art and the science to it at the same time because, like you mentioned before, there's different things that you can do to kind of be disciplined, like looking out for signals and things like that, which I know is quite popular in the trading community. People sending out signals and people say trade now, do it now.
Yeah, trend lines, all this kind of stuff that you need to look at, and
Yeah,
you just need to be on top of it. And I do feel that it can become a full-time job
that's the
with that
thing I
kind
was
of stuff.
thinking.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
almost like, if you want to do it, you want to do it properly.
Hmm.
You know, I get that there are now platforms where you can do it on the side,
Yeah,
but it still takes a lot of your time and effort
yeah.
to execute those trades
Execute
properly
the
as
trade
well.
properly. Yeah, very, very true. This is good conversation, by the way. We can probably talk about trading for quite some time now, but let's try and maybe steer the conversation back to you and your journey getting to where you are now as a financial planner. But before we continue, I just wanted to mention um, you having the experience of utilizing these different wealth vehicles like trading, stockbroking, whatever it is. Do you think that set you up for success as a financial planner? And is it important to be exposed to different wealth strategies, like whether it's investing in property, stocks, trading, assets, whatever? Is that important or is that essential in becoming a financial planner?
Um, it's kind of like a yes or no answer, because I think what tends to happen from a financial planning, financial advisory standpoint is
Yeah.
you 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 get yourself in a position where you can look at financial products,
Mm.
bird's eye view. So you're in a position where you can look at loads of different avenues,
Yeah.
loads of different areas that you can advise on,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not always just um, kind of kind of singled out to one area, one specific area.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you start to understand how different products act and behave, and what
Mm.
the kind of expectations are,
Okay.
or the tax implications are for some of these areas. Whereas if you're a broker, when I was broking, I was specializing in small cap shares. I was specializing in main market FTSE 100, FTSE 250 companies. I only knew what I was doing in those areas, in terms of trading. And then in most cases, I only knew about the companies that we were actively advising our clients on, unless I made the effort myself to research outside of those kind of realms.
Okay, I understand. So it's all about kind of focusing on what you know, right?
Yeah,
Focus on the strategies
yeah,
that you know to kind of achieve
yeah,
that goal that you're working with your client to attain. And when you're
yeah,
doing financial planning, is there necessarily like a target, a goal that you're working with your client together to get
yes,
to, or is it
yeah.
more kind of like being tax efficient, you know, yeah, tax efficient, profit efficient, etc. And
It's a bit of
it's
both.
a combination of all these different things, right?
Combination of both, but it's driven by the client.
Mm,
I can't just sit here and tell you you should do this, you should do that.
yeah.
It needs to be based on what you want and what's
Okay.
important to you
Okay.
as an individual, what's
Okay.
important to your lifestyle, what's important to your circumstances.
Okay.
Okay,
Hmm.
the advisor should be able to kind of advise you based on what you're trying to achieve,
Hmm.
effectively off the back of that. So it needs to come from the client. They need to want it. They need to need it. And then they need to understand why the advisor thinks it's important to put that in place for them, and
Okay.
then more importantly, what the end goal of that will look like for them.
Okay. That making sense. Making sense. All right. So let's go back to finally. Let's go back to you. Getting to where you are
Yeah,
today. So obviously you left retail banking. There's a conventional route they're saying you should take, but it's a bit like school, university. Everyone says
yeah,
go to school, go to university. Follow this path. But then obviously you
yeah.
forged your own path, and obviously you got to where you did some qualifications, did some studying, got some certificates in investing, and then is this the point where you got into wealth management?
No, so after the bank and I did my
Uh
qualifications,
huh.
uh, I went into stockbroking. So I
Okay.
went to a boutique stockbroking
Uh
firm
huh.
in the city. Went in as a trainee equity dealer, trainee broker. So I had a few mentors that I was working with,
Hmm.
and eventually kind of got a grip of what I was doing as a broker. So I was doing that for a few years. Moved around from one or two different companies and still trading. So actively trading in the main markets, and then eventually moved into CFDs, derivatives, so leverage trading,
Okay.
which is pretty much what we're seeing a lot at the moment with FX.
Yeah.
And then moved to a company called SBS Securities, and I was there for about 4 years
Okay.
as a broker, and also moved into a senior role. So at that point, I was managing brokers as well, with a
Mm,
team of other senior brokers.
wow.
So I was in broking for about 6 7 years.
Wow.
I was in broking for about 6 7 years.
Okay.
So it was good times, good parties. It weren't all work. There was a lot of fun.
Work hard, stay hard, huh?
It wasn't Wolf of Wall Street,
Yeah.
but we had a good time. We had a good time. Let's just say we had a good time. And I still had in the back of my mind that I wanted to get to wealth management,
Yeah.
because this is more still tailored to trading. So, after I think it was around 2017,
Yeah.
I got to a point where I thought, I'm kind of ready to make the transition and start thinking about the long term game,
Yeah.
and what I kind of achieve from that, and also still want to be in a position where I can help people with their finances. I felt like I was on a bit of a roller coaster with trading. It was up and down all the time. There's a lot going on. Um, and it's not always easy dealing with clients,
I can
from that
imagine.
perspective.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So yeah, I decided to make the transition into wealth management, and that wasn't as straightforward as I would have assumed it
I can
was.
imagine.
I was
Yeah.
qualified, but then I moved. I did an initial jump
Mhm.
to Switzerland, and I actually went to a company out of Switzerland for about 6 months. And crazy, I just kind of took that jump, a leap of faith to go there and move to a firm there and see what that was like.
What was it? Was it the money?
Um,
Was it the money for you? Because I know
it
Switzerland,
was,
there's quite
it
high
was,
salaries. People can get quite high
yeah,
salaries, and we're gonna get into tax havens a little bit, just a tiny
yeah,
bit. But yeah, what was Switzerland like? Different financial culture, I can imagine. Different regulations.
yeah, different
How
culture.
does it compare? Mm.
I think people are a bit more. Um, they're a bit more comfortable in terms of um, speaking with you, but when it comes to finances, they don't waste time. They're very direct.
Wow.
They didn't beat around the bush.
Yeah,
If they're not happy, they'll tell you. If they don't want to get involved in anything, they'll tell
that's
you.
good.
A lot of people in the UK, from our experience, will kind of play that carrot and stick kind of scenario. They'll dangle a lot of stuff in front of you,
Yeah.
and then you go through the process with them, and they'll go, I'm not really interested, or I
Yeah.
don't have any money,
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And
It's that kind of thing. Yeah.
out there is, I'm interested, I'm not interested.
That's it. They just
It's
tell you as it
it's
is.
it's straight. It's
It's a bit
straight
more
as
of
it is,
American
straight.
culture, right? Because with America, I think American culture is different to British culture. With British culture, a bit more reserved. You see,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
problem. And
yeah,
and we don't really like being sold to or being like pitched something. We want to kind of like,
yeah,
oh, well, think about it, think about it, think about it, think about it, think about it.
yeah,
Oh, I don't want it. I don't want it.
yeah,
That's the
yeah, and
culture. So I
yeah,
appreciate, Switzerland, they'd be more direct. I prefer people like that because when
yeah,
it comes to working with clients, it's just a lot easier to qualify a client or to find a client and to
yeah,
work with a client.
yeah. And they're very personal as well.
Mm.
You, it's not easy to kind of build, that kind of business relationship with them. Even calling, here you could probably call someone's office, and they'll probably go, look, I'm at work, but can you call me on my mobile? We'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
They will get very offended if you call them in the office. Like, I'm at work, do not call me. Like, it's one of those
Funny.
scenarios. They're not wasting time. They're not wasting time. So
Yeah.
you had to
Yeah.
get used to
So you,
kind of
yeah.
those responses and
That's
everything. But yeah, it was
very
a different environment. I was there for 6 months. I
okay.
came back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went there by myself, so I still have my family
Kind
here.
of
So
speak
I
French,
came
huh?
back.
Is that a real
I
reason?
tried. Je ne sais quoi. I tried. I tried. So I came back and wanted to. I started to get into it, but
Yeah.
you have to be there long enough to really grasp it. But
Mm.
I came back and then moved to a company here in London
Okay.
and started my proper. I wouldn't say proper, but my UK based journey in wealth management and financial advice.
Nice.
And I was doing that for about 2 years.
Okay.
So.
So when you came from Switzerland, that's when you start to go out on your own kind of thing.
So I moved to another practice
Okay.
called SJP. I was there for about 2 years or so. So they're quite a big brand, and I was at a practice within the company, and just kind of building my knowledge, my expertise, my client base, and just kind of building from there. So,
Nice.
I kind of already had the interest, but it was just how to get in,
Mm-hmm.
the right way to get in, and kind of go to the right firm, and kind of build my understanding of what that whole world was about, what this whole
Okay.
world is about.
Okay. So was this so on the long term or in the short term, was this always the goal to become a financial planner eventually? Or was that something that
Yeah.
you kind of decided to do in recent years?
Now it's funny because I always feel like when I started in banking, I was face to face.
Hmm.
I was in the branch. I was face to face.
Yeah.
I got used to that. Then I transitioned to broking, and I was over the phone.
Yeah.
So I was over the phone, and I always felt at some point I was going to go back to face
Mm.
for whatever reason. So it didn't feel like um, new territory. It felt like I was eventually going to get there anyway. So you
Okay.
could say I was always planning to get into that spot. The broken side of things was good, but it didn't feel like it was going to last
Yeah.
for the long term.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always thought I was going to get back into that kind of space.
Yeah. I can appreciate that because I mean maybe broken is a bit maybe a bit more direct, more hours. You got maybe a
It's a bit more fast paced.
fast paced. Yeah.
Um,
That's
yeah,
it. Yeah. Wow. Whereas.
loads of hours.
Mm,
You know, very highbrow. There's a lot to deal with, adrenaline,
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. A lot going on,
There's a lot
and
going on.
it's a nice environment though. It's a nice environment when you're in there with your boys
Yeah.
and you guys are actively trading and you guys are having banter and all this kind of stuff. It's a nice feeling, but
Mm,
yeah, it just felt like it was just one moment in time. It
yeah.
happened. It was fun,
True.
and now it's time for the rewards.
That's
That's kind of how I look at it.
it. That's true because in those kind of environments, I mean, there could be high pressured environments as well. So what you
Yeah.
want to do is you would want to maybe be in that environment for some time, make your money, get that buzz, make those those monies, and then leave because at the end of the day, maybe working in that kind of high intensity environment is not
Yeah.
sustainable. So when you want to go on to life changes such as having a family, getting married, etc., you'd want a different kind of work life balance.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think you start to see the difference when you go into those places and you see the difference between the guys that are single and right back down home to
Yeah,
the guys that are married and kids and they're just there for the check.
yeah,
That guy will be doing their trades and then it's 4:30 and they're out the door.
that's
Whereas
it, yeah,
the youngsters are, they're messing about. Then it's like, okay, we're going down to the pub, and then before you know it, it's an all nighter, and they're coming in the next day
yeah.
battered because they just had too much fun.
I
So
think it just shows
you
the
know,
difference. It just shows the difference between being young and being older. Like, for example, you could go to university, and as soon as you graduate, you know,
yeah,
you have all of these, graduate programs. A lot of them are kind of like sales based. Come and work for us. Here's the basic, but here's the uncapped commission. And then they're all in there, all guns blazing. And then after a while, they're like, okay, cool. I've had enough of this. Let me move on to this.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally. And I think to be fair, there's an element of that that's supposed to be that way
Okay.
because especially looking at finance, when you get into it, you start to realize that it's a very broad
Yeah.
topic. There's so many different pockets that you can fall into with finance, and you almost have to kind of just go in and experience it and learn about it
Hmm.
and know that it exists to find out if it's in line with who you are and what
Mm.
you want to do.
Mm.
Because a lot of people that I used to speak to back in the day, um, a lot of people think trading and broking is the same thing.
It's not.
So when I was dealing with people coming in to want to get a job as a broker, they used to come into interviews and be like, "Yeah, I really want to trade the market and I want to do this kind of stuff."
Yeah.
And I saw Wall Street and I want to know like, okay,
Yeah.
but this is really a sales role. We're on the phone, we're speaking to our clients.
Uh huh.
It's more client focused as opposed to just
Yeah.
being in front of the screen and just clicking the button and just going up and down and all that kind of stuff. So that's from a lack of understanding, not knowing that there's a big difference, but just seeing it on the screen and assuming that it's just one thing. There's so many different other avenues in trading, investing, structured products,
Yeah.
EISs, VCTs,
Yeah. It's all foreign
loans.
language to me,
So many different areas that you can fall into: investment banking,
Yeah.
MMA. So many different things that you can fall into.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's a big world, the financial world. So, when I hear some of these terms, some of them I don't catch on to it because I know
Yeah.
it's just not my world. So I'm one of the
Yeah.
first people to admit when it comes to certain, areas of finance, I'm not the best guy to speak to. I'll just refer people to certain people to talk about certain areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of it, man. You just need to kind of know, what it is that you're looking for. And let's bust this myth again, right? So you mentioned, some people confuse trading with with
Mm.
broken. What
Yeah.
explain the difference for the listeners now, the difference between maybe stockbroking and trading, like a simple difference.
Okay, so I guess the simple difference is a trader is that guy that you see in front of the screen
Mm.
that is actively trading their money or someone else's money. Um, they're following the charts. They've got the six. You see it. They've
Yeah.
got the six screens in front of them. They've got Bloomberg. They're
All of the screen,
they're
they're
sitting
watching,
there
they're watching
non-stop.
market
They're
non-stop.
looking at all the markets non-stop, and
Yeah,
they're trying to go in and out of trades.
yeah,
And they might be doing a lot of short-term trading,
yeah,
and it's a lot of pressure on them for whatever they're doing.
yeah,
The broker is kind of the Wolf of Wall Street scenario where you've got the guy on the phone that's calling the client to say, look, this I've got this share for you that
yeah.
I'm confident it's going to go up for you, and I want to advise you to
Okay,
buy it and put it in your portfolio,
okay.
and then we'll keep an eye on that for you. So
Yeah,
you're effectively trading your client's money for them.
essentially.
You're brokering the deal.
The,
You're effectively brokering the deal for them.
yeah, and this is more of your field today rather than you a few years ago, right? Am I correct?
What the broking side of
Broken
things.
side of things. I mean, as part of your overall financial planning, not that you do it, but you may bring it
Yeah.
up, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I would always talk
You may
about it
talk about it.
because
Yeah,
it's part of my experience,
yeah,
and also because a lot of people do tend to speak to me under the impression that as a financial advisor,
yeah.
I can trade their money.
Hmm.
I can invest for them, but in terms of if they assume that I'm going to be sitting at the screen trading their money for them and then going, hey, David, like we've just made a grand now. What do you want to do? That's not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening.
That's
No.
not a financial advisor's role.
Yeah,
The broker might do that. And
yeah.
that's what I was doing before.
Hmm.
So it's just a different transition. My role now is more about kind of sitting down with individuals, small businesses, and understanding what their situation looks like and helping them build, kind of
Mm.
financial plans for them and
Okay. Yeah.
kind of structure their finances for them as well.
Yeah, I thought so. It's more kind of financial projections and plans rather than
Yeah,
execution, because the
yeah,
execution can come from someone else or even themselves.
yeah. There is an option for that. Ideally, you'd want your client to work with you,
Yeah.
and you'd want to build a relationship with them for the long term.
Okay.
But the initial idea of what you're trying to do is build a plan for them.
Understand.
You want to put a plan in place for them, and rightly so. If they are happy with what you're doing and they want to work with you, then they would want you to implement that plan.
Yeah.
But in some cases, they might decide that they have other options to implement that plan. If that's the case, fine.
Hmm.
As long as you pay me for what what I'm doing, then yeah, it works. It's almost like a solicitor in some cases where you're requiring a solicitor to put certain contracts in place for them, and they'll do the work, they'll put the time in to execute it,
Hmm.
and then once they've done that, you'll go away and do what you need to do with that
Mm.
paperwork.
Mm. Understand. Okay. I remembered
Yeah.
one of those. I remembered one of these scenes in The Wolf of Wall Street. Leonardo DiCaprio did such a good job in that movie. The scene where he makes that phone call, that one sales phone call, is on YouTube, right? You can obviously there's versions of it on YouTube. It's got so many million hits.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've watched that sales pitch is ridiculous. Like, it's so entertaining. You just see the silence and the way everyone just looks like, oh my god, how do you do that? And he just talks rubbish. He just
Yeah, you just hear all you hear is the enthusiasm,
yeah.
just the energy in his voice of how well this investment is going to do, and that's all that mattered. That's all that mattered at
Yeah.
that moment in time. That client was like, okay, this sounds awesome. I've got to get involved now. You know,
That's hilarious.
so it's a crazy
Yeah.
game. That is crazy game.